Well, February has the fewest amount of days, but can sometimes feel like the longest month of the year. Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we'll discuss a few things to take care of in February to ensure a successful garden come summer. Let's get going. February can be an exciting time as a gardener. Here at the Garden Hutch, we get to plant our very first vegetables in the ground at the end of February. But let's start at the beginning for the purposes of this video. As you can see, we got a bit of ice and snow. We got significantly more ice than snow. We got about 3/4 of an inch of ice and, just a dusting of snow. But this brings me to the first topic here in February is a great time to clean your trees and burn the things that you cut down. Usually this time of year there's a lot of moisture in the ground, so you don't have to worry about causing wildfires, or if you're located in the city, you don't have to worry about any sort of grass fires or any of that sort of thing. So also, as we've discussed in the past, the sap has kind of migrated down into the roots at this time of year. So you're a lot less likely to hurt the tree in that manner. Also, there are fewer pests about that can attack the tree before it has a chance to repair itself. So that's the first thing that we recommend doing in February is trimming your trees. Anything broken, take that off, piling it up, and burn it. Okay, having said that, let's move on to project number 2 for February. The second thing that we do, and we'll be doing that this weekend or the weekend after, is setting up our greenhouse. So let's just take a second and talk about greenhouses for a moment. Last year, we started all of the vegetables here at the homestead in 2 3x3x5 greenhouses. All except for, the eggplants and the cantaloupes. Those were gifted to us once we had completed the pallet gardens. We weren't really planning on doing that anyway. So besides that, we started all of our own squashes, we started all of our own peppers, we started all of our own tomatoes last year, and it was really successful. This year we have multiplied the amount of room that we are planting, and so we needed a bit more, so we just went online and we found a lightweight, wind-resistant greenhouse that we're going to put up in the yard, and we'll show that to everybody. I have an idea, sort of have a little extra topsoil left and some mulch left that I can use for it, and I'm hoping to make it a semi-permanent structure. Anybody who watches the channel knows that I do not like to commit to permanent structures until I've had something removable in place for a couple of years, much like the fence for the top garden. So we're going to put this greenhouse up this year. And we'll try it this year and next year, and we'll kind of see where we're at, right? So if it's the right size, then maybe we'll just keep that greenhouse. If the gardens continue to grow at the pace they have, perhaps we'll have to do something a little bit bigger. If it does get bigger, I'm kind of leaning towards a hoop house. Here's Zone 7B. It gets really hot from June through probably mid-September, and that's a pretty good chunk of the year that you can't use your greenhouse. And then also from, say, December through the middle of February, you also don't have much use for your greenhouse. So a permanent structure, I'm not sure about. With a hoop house, at least, you can raise the ends of it up in the summertime and you can still grow there for the vast majority of the year. So maybe that's the way we're leaning. So number 2 thing to do is make sure you get your greenhouses set up. So last week we discussed all of the seeds and how to know when to start them. I'll put a link above. So once we get our greenhouse set up, the next thing we do is we start planning on when to start the seeds, right? We already have the date set. So we do need a few things whenever we get started. We'll need to make sure that we have some sort of medium to start our seeds in. And what we use compost, and we just sift out all the large pieces. We just put it through like a fine mesh, and it makes a really great seed starter because it'll absorb water really well, but it'll be loose enough for the seedlings to be able to grow through. So that's a good way to start it. They sell them at the store if you want. They're a bit more expensive since we buy the compost in bulk. And going forward, we'll have our own compost from here on the homestead. It's just more cost effective for us to do it that way. I'm sure depending on your region and what your gardening or what your garden itself looks like, you'll have to make that determination on your own. But a medium is important. You'll need that, and then you'll need your containers. We use a few different sizes here on the homestead. We have these smaller ones, and we use these for plants like squashes and that sort of things. We don't like our squashes or cabbages to get super big before we put them in the ground. They don't seem to like their roots being messed with after a certain point. So we generally will plant the squash from the time it comes up. We try to plan to have it in the ground in 4 weeks. That's why we use these smaller ones for them. These larger ones we'll use for our peppers and our chilies. And we'll start these in here because we don't want to have to transplant that pepper, right? So we'll put these in here, and in about 8 weeks, that pepper will get, I don't know, roughly 8 to 10 inches tall, which it'll be fine in here. The root ball will be a little bit crowded, but it'll be big enough for it to handle that 8-week growth period. And then finally, we have these size that we use here on the homestead, and I use these for my tomatoes. And the way I grow my tomatoes is a little bit different than I do the other ones. As opposed to filling the entire container with the medium, I'll do it about halfway down, plant the tomato in it, and as it comes up, I'll add dirt on top of that. Many of you know tomatoes are unique in the fact that as they're growing, you can cover the stem with dirt, and the stem itself will produce roots that will just uptake nutrients. The more roots, the better chance the plant has of making it through these, difficult springs and summers and that sort of thing. So when you do it this way and you start low and you gradually add your dirt onto the top of it, it just prevents you from having to transplant, 2-3 times throughout the spring before you get it into the ground. And finally, the next thing that you're going to need whenever starting your plants is you're going to need some sort of watering system. Now, you can use a spray bottle. Whenever the plants are super small and I don't want to disturb them too much, I will use a spray bottle and spray on the top of them a little bit to sort of give them a bit of resistance. It seems to make the plant stronger itself. The problem with doing that, you need to make sure that whenever you water from the top like that, that you're not getting mildew. Cinnamon works really well on mildew. That's what we use. I just get one of those 98-cent things that you get from the little bins at your local grocery store. I keep it in the greenhouse. I go through, and if I see any mold at all, I'll just sprinkle a little cinnamon around it. Takes care of everything. It also works for the funguses as well. So I recommend having that around if you're watering from the top. Another way to do it, however, is we have a tray that we use in the bigger greenhouses, and you'll notice that all of these containers have these little slits at the bottom for water. And a lot of and it is for, if you water them through the top, it's to allow water to come out. But another thing it can do is what they call wick the water, where it'll soak the water from the bottom up. And that's the way we like to water ours a lot of time, because it's easier on the plant. It does avoid a lot of diseases, molds, fungal issues, that sort of thing. And it's really passive. All you do is you have a tray, set it in there, and you just watch the top when the tarp gets dark and wet, or whenever you can feel it tactically through your finger, then you'll know it's just time to move on. It also prevents a lot of overwatering issues. If you have the opportunity, I highly recommend doing it that way, just allowing the plant to naturally wick it up. Do you want to introduce yourself, Frazzle? This is Frazzle the cat. She has a unique story. We found her in the chicken coop of all places when she was about 2 months old. She was half starved to death. We brought her into the house, and many trips to the vet later, she is now a permanent part of our household. So Frazzle, everyone, Frazzle. Well, that about wraps up today's episodes of The Garden Hutch. If you have not, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that little bell icon. YouTube will notify you whenever we upload new content. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like. And please, in the comments below, let us know what you're doing in February to get your garden going. Until next time, I hope you folks take care of yourselves. Peace.